Hello, everyone. Praise the Lord. Now, with every episode, I just want to always start out with emphasizing the point of that it's not about skin color, because with God, it doesn't matter about skin color. But what I want to present is truth. And a lot of lies through the years have been told about skin color, and it's been built up as being important because of slavery, because of racism, and so on. But again, with every episode, I want to point out that it's all about us being Christian. It's all about us living righteously. It's all about us doing God's will and seeking His will. Now, when it comes to racism, these things have to be brought up because racism is a sin. Racism is evil. Contrary to those who think it isn't these days, it's never gone away. It never will go away as long as sin is prevalent in our lives, as long as sin is a part of us. So until sin isn't, myself and others will bring forth this situation, this issue, because a lot of lies have been told through the years. So I want to make us keenly aware of what's going on and not be caught up in the myth that racism doesn't exist, because it does. So with that being said, let's hear from Pastor Price.
Now, in the same Washington Post article quoted before, a question was asked that I find very interesting. And this was the question, and I quote from that article. The question is asked. Now, this is going to be, it's going to upset the apple cart. The question was asked, so, were there ever pure races? End of quote. See, this is what the religionists and the white racists and the slave masters tried to tell us and sold us this garbage down through the years, that the white race is pure. And you know what, the thing that really makes you, I'm talking about mad now. I ain't talking about righteously indignant. Yeah, I'm talking about mad now. Here's the thing that makes you mad. To show you how they lied to us and lied to their own people. Just a downright deliberate, bold-faced lie. Because if the white race was so pure, what were them white turkey slave masters doing in the slave quarters under the skirts of them inferior black women? See, they don't believe. See, all that stuff is a smokescreen. All that stuff is a crock. You know what? Beef stew, you know. Because if they really were, if you were pure, I wouldn't even get near you. I would get away from, hey, oh! Ah!
Right.
Man, every once in a while, during the year, like maybe in the summertime, I have this white suit, this snow white suit. Man, when I put that suit on and I walk out of the door, man, I'm checking it. Is that true? You don't want to get nothing on that pure white suit. And brother, sister, you can't get any closer than sexual intercourse. That's about as close as you can get. So all I'm showing you, see, it's just a bunch of junk. It's a big lie that's been sold to the black man and to the white man. and all the rest of the people in the world. It's a big lie, and that makes me makes me very happy. Okay, so were there ever pure races? The article goes on to say, quote, until the mid-20th century, most researchers assumed that so-called pure races once existed. Those early thinkers had great trouble figuring out who belonged in which race and decided that was simply because migrations and intermarriage had mixed up or blended the once distinct traits. Today, most anthropologists hold that pure, oh Lord, you ready for this now? Most anthropologists hold that pure races never existed. They think that human beings have always been migrating and intermarrying, spreading new genes worldwide. I'm just reading. I said, I'm just reading. Now, the Answers book, 1990, by Ken Ham, Andrew Snelling, and Carl Whelan. Master Books, P.O. Box, 1606, El Cajon, California, 92022. All three authors are creation scientists with degrees in biology, geology, and medicine, respectively. I want to quote from this book because I believe they deal with this question of skin color in a very simple way. Even if you have no background in science of any kind, you will be able to understand their simple presentation. Now, the reason that I'm harping on this and using this is because the root of this racism thing here in America especially is this inferior, superior thing. That's the crux of the whole thing. See? And until we explode that lie and show that everybody's poo-poo stinks, ain't no pure smelling poo-poo. It all needs some air freshener. No, I'm just down home, and it might sound vulgar to you, but that's your problem. It's not vulgar to me. I'm talking about we got to get down to this thing and realize people are just people. They may look different exteriorly, but God created us from one blood, and there's only one kind of flesh of man. And I hold the white Christian church in America responsible for this garbage. Now, it's real simple to validate that. And it's not a matter, I'm not trying to accuse anybody just to be accusing them, but to find out where the origin of this mess is so that we can dig the roots up and throw that thing out and clean that field off and plant some new crops there. First thing you got to do, you got to get rid of that old junk. See, if you don't kill the roots and just cut the tree down, given time, that sucker will grow again. So we got to locate the root system. Not just clean the rocks off and get rid of the trees and cut it down so that as we go out there and visually look at the field, it looks like it's clean. If you leave those roots down there, that tree's coming back. So we got to root it out. And anybody that's ever had anything to do with farming or clearing land knows, brother, sister, that is hard, sweaty, stinky work. You're going to get hot under the collar. Huh? And so consequently, we've got to find out about that. And that's the reason for it. Because all you got to do is look around you. Black folk And Hispanic or Spanish-speaking people were not the ones that left the inner city and moved to the suburbs. Knock, knock. Anybody home? I hear Jesus say, go ye into, not away from, into all the world. Are you telling me that the ghetto, the inner cities, are not a part of the world? You got all the resources. You control the wealth. You got the power. And yet you ran off and left it. And then stand out there and have the audacity to criticize those wild folk in the ghetto for acting like animals when you treated them like that for 400 years. What on God's green earth do you expect them to act like?
Okay, they got plenty of folks squirming in their seats right there.
This is the way you win friends and influence people.
Being fearless.
But Jesus said the truth. The truth.
Let you free.
Our country, our nation is in turmoil. Our country, our nation is in trouble. America is not the great nation that we used to think we were. Ain't nobody afraid of us no more. There was a time when nations would not raise a finger against the United States of America. Today they'll spit on us and dare to do something about it.
They're the same.
And we've lost that because we've lost God.
Right.
We've lost our contact with God. We've been practicing religion instead of Christianity. There's a big difference between religion and Christianity if you didn't know it. I don't have time to go into that. Anyway, watch this now. Yeah. All right. I told you that even if you have no background in science of any kind, you will be able to understand their simple presentation. On pages 133 and 134, and I quote from the Answers book, it is easy to think that since different groups of people have yellow skin, red skin, black skin, white skin, and brown skin, there must be many different pigments or colorings. The fact is, however, that there is only one skin color. Remember me telling you that? I said that a little bit before. There's only one skin color. You know what that color is? It's called melanin.
Mm-hmm.
This is a brownish pigment which we all have in special cells in our skin. If we produce only a little melanin, it means that we will be European white. If our skin produces a great deal of melanin, we will be a very deep black, and in between, of course, are all shades of brown. End of quote. The Answer book goes on to say, or the Answers book goes on to say, pages 135, 136, 137, 141, 142, 143, 146, and 147. I quote, we also need to be aware that one is not born with a genetically fixed amount of melanin, but rather with a genetically fixed potential to produce a certain amount in response to sunlight. For example, if you are a Caucasian, you may have noticed that when your friends headed for the beach at the very beginning of summer, they may, if they spent all their time indoors during the winter, have all been more or less that same pale white. As the summer went on, however, some became more darker than others. Even very dark-skinned races are not born with such a skin color. It takes exposure. I can tell you this now. This is a really good example of this.
Before he goes on with that, I've said this before. I don't know if you heard this, but when I was born, I was, very, very light, and there was some question Some people thought I was a Puerto Rican baby. There's, like I said, there was some controversy I don't want to get into. But I don't know. That's just how it is with black people. I've got a son who started out basically my complexion, and now he's the darkest one of the 5 of us in the family. I've got 3 sons and my wife, and he's the darkest. Matter of fact, he's the only one that's dark skinned. But when you look at his baby pictures, and when he was up until about the age of maybe 10, he was the same complexion as the rest of us. But he started running track, and before you know it, he was always out in the open air, more so than all of us, and his complexion is now dark. So it's weird like that. So there you go.
My daughter Angela. Put the camera on Angela. There you go. What now? Obviously she's white, right? Isn't that the color? Isn't that the color on the screen? Is white? And that's no white? Oh no, she's not white, is she? Oh, she's jet black. No. She's a nice intermediate brown. Do you know that when this girl was born, this baby was born, she was the color that you were, very pink? She was, I had to look at I said, hey, I thought I'd be the daddy. Hey, what's happening here? Yeah, she was the most beautiful pinkish white color when she came out of her mother's womb. Then as she has been exposed to sunlight, the melanin factories in her body have begun to produce the melanin based upon the genetic coding that came from mom and papa. A lot of you can remember, black folk have babies and they're just as light as they can be. Right. And therefore, if you took those babies and kept them in an isolated situation where they never got any sunlight, the melanin factory would never be turned on.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And it'd be that same color there that they were when they were born. Mm-hmm. But it's light that causes the melanin factories to produce. Now watch this now. I said it before. As the summer went on, however, some became much darker than others. Even very dark-skinned races are not born with such a skin color. It takes exposure to sunlight to switch on the melanin factories in the skin. In very dark-skinned people, the areas such as the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet, which are very rarely exposed to sunlight, generally stay much lighter than the rest of the body. Let's look at a few observations which can help us to explain how many different skin colors can arise in a short time. From here on, whenever we use such words as different colors, we are strictly speaking, referring to different shades of the one color. Okay? Now watch this. If a person from a very black race marries someone from a very white race, their offspring, called mulattoes, are mid-brown.
Right.
It has long been known that if people of mulatto descent marry, their offspring may be virtually any color, ranging from very black to very white. Now, my wife's family is a perfect example of this, and many people know this, but a lot of people don't know this. Now, my wife's family was 13 children? 13 children. My wife's mother's grandfather was a white man. Now, my wife's mother was as fair as some of you white folks in here today. She is very light-skinned. Her husband, on the other hand, was black-skinned, very dark, very dark. I mean, black. I mean, they call me black, you know, just because, but I'm talking about dark, D-A-R-K-K, dark, black. One was very black, very dark, and one, in fact, is your color. And then one was almost white, and all the rest of them, medium brown, all came from the same source. That's the reason why Adam and Eve could not have been white, because two white people cannot produce a brown.
There you go.
That's genetically untenable.
Bingo. Bingo.
But they want us to think that the first parents were white. Couldn't have been. Because if so, then it got to be another creation, because, honey, we came from somewhere. Huh? And you can't get black out of white. Huh? I mean, you can't get a black child out of two fair-skinned, fair complexion white people. You can't. It won't fly. Okay, let's go on. It has long been known that if people of mulatto descent marry, their offspring may be virtually any color, ranging from very black to very white. Understanding this gives us the clues we need for our overall question. So we must first look, in a simple way, at some of the basic facts of heredity. Each of us carries in our body, listen to this carefully now, each of us carries in our body. See, when you went to school, when I went to school, and a little bit of biology and stuff that I had, the class I had, it was very uninteresting because I wasn't included in it. So I really didn't take any, I mean, it's not that it's an uninteresting subject matter, but if you don't have a vested interest in it sometimes, just kind of do what you got to do to pass the grade. But brother, I'm telling you, all this stuff about genetics and DNA and all this stuff that we're going to get into in a few moments, it's going to really be a real wonderful lesson for you now, because, honey, we talking about us now. We talking about where we all came from and how we got here and why we are the way we are. It becomes extremely interesting. All right, now watch this. Each of us carries in our body information which describes us in the way a blueprint describes a finished building. It determines not only that we will be human beings rather than cabbages or crocodiles, but also whether we will have blue eyes, short nose, long legs, etc. When a male sperm fertilizes an egg, all the information that specifies how that person will be built, ignoring, of course, such superimposed factors as exercise, diet, things like that, is already present. Let me say that again. When a male sperm fertilizes an egg, all the information that specifies how that person will be built is already present. The human blueprint is written in a code or language convention which is carried on a very long chemical called DNA. The word gene means a small part of that information which carries the instructions for only one feature. In the fertilized egg, where does all its information, its genes, come from? Good question. One half has come from the father, carried by the sperm, and the other half from the mother, carried in the egg. Genes come in matching pairs. We know that skin color is governed by at least two, possibly more, sets of genes. Let's call them, I'm ready for my demonstration, gentlemen. It's that we know that skin color is governed by at least two, possibly more, sets of genes. Let's call them capital A. Line 1, highlight A for me. All right, you see the A? Capital. Notice it's a capital A. That's important. And we'll call the other capital B. Would you highlight B on line 1, please? Thank you very much. All right. Now, with the correspondingly, let me say it again now. We know that skin color is governed by at least two, possibly more, sets of genes. Let's call them capital A, capital B. With the correspondingly more silent genes, line 2 if you please, small a and small b. There's a small b and there's a small a. You ought to write this down if you can, because this is very, very, very interesting. All right, now the small letters in this case code, C-O-D-E, code for a small amount of melanin. So, a very dark race. Now get this. This is important. This is really going to be very informational for you. A very dark race which, on intermarriage, kept producing only very dark offsprings would be, line 3 please, AABB. Remember that these things come in what? Pairs. Okay? So get it again now. So if a very dark race which on intermarriage kept producing only very dark offspring, then it would be AA and BB. Please go to line 4. The same situation for a very fair-skinned race would be small a and small b. Let's go to line 5. Now let's look at what combinations would result in a mulatto, the offspring of an AA, capital AA, BB, and a small a and a small BB union. Now remember, we're talking about the one that's coated, the dark skin, and if they kept intermarrying, their gene, the code would always be capital A, capital B, capital AA, capital BB. If you have a very little bit of melanin, then you would be small AA, small BB. Now let's put the dark and the light together. We get the capital AA, capital BB, and the AA, small BB. We would have, let's look at what combination would result in a mulatto, the offspring of an AA, a capital AA, BB, and AA, BB, small union. What would happen if two such mid-brown mulatto people were to marry? Surprisingly, we find that an entire range of color, from very white to very black, can result in only one generation. Beginning with this particular type of mid-brown parents. Those children born with, we're on line 6 now, AABB, who are pure black in the sense of consistently having no other types of offsprings, have no genes for lightness at all. If they were to marry and migrate to a place where their offspring could not intermarry with people of different colors, all their children will be black. A pure black line will result. Line 7, please. Those who are small AA, small BB, are white. If they marry other whites and migrate to a place where their offspring cannot marry other colors, a pure, in the same sense, white line will result. They have lost the genes which give them the ability to be black. Now, with that in mind, I said it before, but now with that in mind, you can go back and understand now why Adam and Eve could not have been white. Can't you see it? We're talking about genetics now. I'm not talking about the pastor, talking about genetics. They could not produce because they have no genes for it. They could only continue to produce white children, just like themselves. Just like the black could only produce black children, just like themselves. You have to have a combining or combination to do otherwise. Now, let's see, where was I now? Yeah, 7. I wanted 7. Did I get 8? Oh, I got 8. No, 7. Okay. Okay, let me say it again. If they marry other whites and migrate to a place where their offspring cannot marry other colors, a pure in the same sense, in other words, all white line will result. They have lost the genes which give them the ability to be black. That is, to produce a large amount of melanin. So you can see how it is easily possible, beginning with two, oh Lord, watch this now, with two middle brown parents to get not only all the colors, but also races with permanently different shades of coloring. So Adam and Eve had to be mid-brown. Not black and not white. Because only that combination of genes could produce all the varied colors from jet black to snow white. So when God, watch this now, when God created Adam and Eve, undoubtedly, he placed within them the genetic code for all the other colors. Because God is a spirit and he doesn't have a physical body, so he couldn't have given to Adam his own color code because he doesn't have a color, he's a spirit. So when he created Adam and Eve, he had to make them mid-brown and place within them the genetic coding to produce, as I said before, from jet black to snow white. That's the only possible genetic way that it could have possibly been done. Now, if you think that that's far-fetched, go back and read, you don't have to do it now, but go back and read the first chapter of Genesis, where it talks about that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and it talks about the fact that God made the fish of the sea and all that kind of stuff. Well, you'll notice that it says that God spoke to the dry land and said, let the earth bring forth fruit bearing seed after its kind. Now, how could the earth produce trees bearing fruit with seed in them if when God created the ground, he had not already planted the seeds in the ground? He would have to plant the seed. He couldn't just speak to the ground and tell it to bring forth unless there's something in there to bring forth. So when he created the ground, he put all the plant life in the ground and then commanded that plant life that was already there to come forth, just like he put the genetic code into Adam and Eve and told them to be fruitful and multiply, and we are the results. Yeah. I'll have to get to number 8 next time. I'm out of time. Stay right where you are. If this message has been a blessing to you, remember 2 Corinthians 5 and 7, we walk by faith, not by sight.
So, in conclusion, now Fred mentions, this is a point I wanted to make. Fred mentioned that God said to go out into the world and spread the gospel. But yet, I'm talking about white people in general, those who, for good intentions or not, get selective. And instead of purposely, because sometimes you can have people in your own backyard meaning the United States, and ignore that segment and go out into these other lands and countries and so forth. and I can understand that, okay, because we're going out into the world, but don't overlook those right next door to you. Don't overlook those in your own, using the term backyard. So, but that seems to be missed upon a lot, And again, the answer to that question, were there ever pure races? Now, I think he answered that question succinctly, is no, but now, I love the way that he pointed out that we all have the same color code, which is melanin. We all have the same color. We all born with the same color, and be coded is melanin. Sometimes that's a tongue twister. But isn't that interesting? Whether you be black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, we all have the color melanin. Now, with some, it'd be more than others. On the extreme side, a black man, a dark man. And then on the other opposite of that would be somebody who's very light-skinned or white. But we all have melanin. We all are of, being born, have that same color, melanin. So I find that very interesting. Very interesting. So, with that in mind, renew your mind. Continue to renew your mind in truth. Continue to renew your mind in accordance with the Bible. Every day, learn, grow, renew your mind.